Welcome to this webinar, Create and Publish Amazing Multi-Touch Books for iPad using iBooks Author. My name is Jeff Batt with Kinetic Media, and this is in preparation for my mLearnCon 2012 presentation. In this webinar, we're going to be covering using Apple's pre-built templates to start out new textbooks. We'll talk about creating chapters within your textbooks, and then also creating pages within your textbooks and the different types of pages that you can create. We'll also talk about using glossary terms within your textbooks and linking to those glossary terms and even creating your own glossary terms as well. Also, using existing materials such as Word documents, we'll talk about how to bring those into your text documents or your textbooks inside of iBooks Author. And then we'll get into the more interactive stuff like the widgets. And that's just talking about photo galleries, videos, review interactions, so you can quiz the learner on different types of reviews or different sections or anything that you may have within your textbook. And then even using keynote presentations and how to make those and turn your keynote presentations into actual interactions as well that can be used within the textbooks. And then talking about interactive images, 3D material, and also custom HTML5 content. So let's go ahead and get started. Now, when you start an iBooks Author project, you start from one of Apple's pre-built templates. You must start from one of these templates, but you can customize pretty much every aspect of the template once you've started from it. They have 6 templates, and you can't start from a blank template, but you can start from one of these templates and again change every aspect of the template. So it's good to try out different ones and see which text and layout differences there are and which one are ones that you actually like a little bit better that you can start from and start tweaking from there. So start from the one you most like and then tweak it from there and start adding on your own content at that point. Now, when you're creating chapters inside of iBooks Author, you can insert chapters at any point of when you're at any point of the book. Choose from the different layout colors, and pretty much they're the same layout, but you can choose from the different colors within the chapters. And then you can also choose between a chapter or a preface. Let's go ahead and move into iBooks Author and show you how you actually get started and how you can add different chapters. So here's my template chooser, and I can select one of these templates that I want to start from. So I'm going to go ahead and select, let's go ahead and select this Earth Science one. I'm going to double click to bring up the Earth Science book. And now over on the left hand side, I have my book title. I can click on and come to my book title. And this is where I can change and give it a book title name. So I'll just call it title of this book. And so you can see that it comes off a little bit. If I want to, I can select the text, come up to the toolbar up on top, click on fonts, and bring up my fonts panel. And then I can change the title size just by dragging this up here as well to make it fit a little bit more. Now, I don't have to use this text. I can actually come up to the toolbar up on top and click on the text box and then insert my own text. Same thing with the images. If I want to drag and drop in my image here, I can use a different image, or I can completely delete that image and bring in a different image as well. Now, over on the left-hand side, I also have intro media. Let me go ahead and close out the fonts here, but the intro media allows me to drag in a movie or an image that will actually show when the book is loading. And so if you wanted to have an introduction video before the learner actually starts looking through the book, you can insert that video inside of here as well. The next option is the table of contents. Now, the table of contents is what will actually get built as you're building the course, the textbook, and all of that information will show up here, but you can actually give it a title and chapter 1, chapter 2, and you can tweak the table of contents as you're going throughout here. Now, the glossary is where you can start adding different glossary terms and definitions, which we'll explore a little bit more in a little bit later time inside of this recording. And so if I wanted to, the toolbar up on top allows me to actually add different items. If I click on Add Pages, this is where it will show me different chapters If I select on chapter, I can select a new chapter, or I can select preface. Now you'll notice in the keynote that I was actually using, it had multiple different colors and different chapters. Well, it depends on the style that you're using. In this specific style, there's only one little chapter, or there's one chapter layout. In the other style that I was using, there was multiple different colors that I could use for the chapters. Now again, you can customize pretty much everything about the chapter layout, so I can customize it to look however I want, even though I may be using this. If I come up to the top, I can also select different types of views that I want. If I want to show the layouts, if I want to show the format bar, show rules once I'm in the book. If I wanted to show a book outline as well, I can show that as I can just select different views by selecting the drop-down box. If I select on a page, you'll notice that up on the top on the toolbar, I can see this page in landscape, which is the default layout, or I can go ahead and switch it over to portrait and see what it's going to look like on portrait. This is really useful, especially on when you're using widgets, because then you can see how the widget's going to look when you actually rotate it into portrait mode. Now, up on the top, I also have a text input box. If I select the shapes, I can also use shapes to highlight or even create my own shapes. And this basically is the same as keynotes. If you're already familiar with how to use keynotes and shapes, you can use arrows and different things within here. I can also create a table for if I wanted some data. If I wanted to, or a certain layout, I can insert a table. If I select on the table, it will pull up with the table information. I can decide if I want to have how many rows I want, how many columns, and headers, footers, if I want different headers, footers, bar, backgrounds, and all of that kind of information right there. The next option is the charts. If I select the charts icon, it will show up with the different types of charts that I can actually add. And when you add a chart, it then allows me to edit the data and also edit the information, and even the rotation of the chart if I'm using a 3D chart. You can even pull out the different parts if you wanted to. Change the different data and the different layouts here. But I'm going to go ahead and continue here. So let's come back and add this, or back to the chapter. I can also, this is where we'll get into more information. Let me close out some of these windows. More information, we'll go more in depth about the different widgets, the picture galleries, video galleries, review, keynotes, interactive images, 3D, and custom HTML as well. Now, when you're ready to view whatever you've actually been able to working or what you've been working on, you just click on this preview icon. Now, in order to do this, you do have to have your iPad hooked up to your computer and iBooks open. And so when you click on that, it'll take a second depending on the size of your book, but then the book will automatically display and you can take a look at it and interact with it right on your book. If you're ready to publish your book, then you click on publish, and it'll, first of all, you can save it here, and then you can also publish it to the iBook store as well. The inspector window pulls up your different inspectors, the tables, metrics, text as well, layouts, and then the widgets interaction, or the widget inspector, which we'll get into a little bit more when we actually start talking about widgets. Media, colors, and fonts as well, which is pretty standard with most of Apple's applications. And all of that's here inside of iBooks Author. So that's a little introduction to the interface and also how you add chapters. So let's hop back into the keynote and talk a little bit about sections now. Now, you have chapters and then you have sections. Now, you can really only have with sections, you can put those inside of chapters, and you can have as many sections as you want within the actual chapters. And so if you're wanting to separate your content, mainly if you have one overall chapter, you can start adding sections, section text, copyright, dedication as well. So sections are just the beginning of a portion of the chapter. Within the sections, you must add pages. The section is mainly, when you're adding a section, is mainly the title or the copyright or the dedication or the forward or something like that. It's not actually the content. That's where you have to add your pages. And within the chapters, you add sections like the following: a section text, copyright, dedication, forward, as well. So those are the different types of section content that you can actually add. And that's you add that by clicking on the add page and going down to the section content. Now the same way with the pages. If you're clicking, if you wanted to add pages and you actually want some content, that's where you can click on create a page or add a page, and then within the section you highlight, or within the section highlighted, you can insert a page. And there's different types of page layouts that you can use. You can choose from 1 to 3 columns or blank pages that have nothing or on it, including you can start with nothing but the page number if you wanted to. And so there's a couple different options there. Now once the page is added, simply add your content. Like we looked at a little bit before this, you can add text, shapes, charts, and widgets as well within your actual pages. Now let's talk about adding glossaries and creating glossaries inside of your textbooks. When you're ready to add a glossary, click on the glossary. Let's actually go into it real quick. And so when I'm ready to add a glossary, I can come over to the left-hand side and click on this glossary term, or this glossary label. And now as soon as you're ready to start adding those glossaries, you click on the plus icon to insert the term. Now you can insert graphs, shapes, tables within your term, but no widgets. You can't actually use any videos or any different HTML interactions or anything like that. Now, however, you can link to related terms by dragging and dropping in the related term in the section below after you actually start adding in your definition. You can add terms as you are writing as well. So if you're typing out a page, you can select the term and click Add Term in the toolbar up on top, and then use the expansion button, which I'll show you here in a second, to edit the definition, close it back, and then you're still on the page that you were editing before. So let's take a look at that. So let's say I'm going to add a glossary. Just click on the plus icon. It adds the term here, and I can just go ahead and just let me just type in definition real quick. And you can see over on the right hand side it updates my term title, and I can come over and start typing out the definition for this. And now down at the bottom, if I had more than one term, I could actually take the term, drag and drop it into the, or take other terms, drag and drop it into here to actually connect related terms as well. Down at the bottom, you also have a status, which is blue, orange, and green. So you can change the different statuses as well. But let's say I'm actually in a page. So I'm typing out my page here, and I decide, okay, let's go ahead and add a term. So let's say I'm going to add this term to my definition. I can double click on it. Up on top where it says new glossary term, I have this button to add term, and it says now that it's added, if I wanted to, I can go ahead and also index link definition. If I wanted to add a link, that will actually pop up the definition when the learner taps on this term. If I wanted to edit the definition, I can click on this right arrow. This will expand out the definition for glossary. I can go ahead and type out the term. I'm just going to type in some gibberish here for a second. And then I can go ahead, and once I'm done, let's say relating some terms, I can just click on the arrow button again, and I'm back at my page here. So that's how you add a glossary inside of here. Now we're going to skip on to actually using Word documents within your iBooks textbooks. And so the first thing you can do is you can actually drag and drop in your content from Word into the location that you want the Word document inside of iBooks Author. Now it converts one Word document into a chapter inside of the iBooks, and you can rearrange the pages afterwards as well. So you can actually edit it and not have to worry about it disrupting your actual Word document. Now the position of the images are not usually consistent, so that's one thing that I've noticed, is if I've positioned some images inside of Word and then I bring it inside of iBooks Author, it doesn't always keep my images exactly where I had them in Words, and I'll show you how to do that, or what I'm meaning here. Let me go ahead and delete that real quick. And I'm going to add a page, come down to page, and let's just do one column for now. And so inside of the page, I'm going to go ahead and just drag over in here. I have my sample Word document. I'm just going to drag that Word document over to iBooks Author where I want it. And it will then pop up here asking if I want to add it as a chapter, if I want to add it as a preface, a section, section text, copyrights, dedication, or forward. So I'm going to add this actually as a chapter. Now, I have down here to preserve the document paragraph styles on import. I want to make sure that I preserve that, so I'm going to hit choose. And now you can see it's added it as a chapter. And it already added the title of the document here as the chapter. I have a description that I can edit, but if I come down to here, you can see all of my text and even my formatting with my bullet points are all intact except for my images. Now my images really didn't stay intact, so now I can just go ahead and drag and drop them into the place where they were before and just kind of format it. The text wraps around it. You can see any errors that happened during that, so I can just exit out of that or take care of those errors as well. But that's how you go ahead and use some Word documents there, or use your Word documents inside of your course, inside of your textbook. Is just by dragging and dropping it into the location that you want, and then determining what type of content this is going to be once you drag it in, whether it's a chapter, a section, or something like that. So as we talked about, you can drag and drop your workbook in. iBooks will ask you what type of style you want. You can preserve the documents paragraph, and then you can rearrange and edit your Word document after it has been imported, but it will not affect your original Word document when it's edited inside of iBooks Author. So now we're really going to get into the details, or actually the more interactive stuff, the fun stuff inside of iBooks Author, really what makes it stand out other than just like a PDF or something on your iBook, inside of iBooks. And so there's different types of iBooks widgets that you can actually use. And widgets are key for making your iBooks interactive. Different options depending on the media you are bringing in. There's different types of options, so you can do picture galleries, you can do reviews, you can also do keynotes and everything like that. Now in portrait mode, all the widgets become thumbnails on the left-hand side. So keep that in mind that you may position your widget inside of the actual page, but in portrait mode, if someone rotates their iPad to portrait mode, that widget's going to automatically turn into a thumbnail. And the reasoning behind that is Apple wants, if they're going to be in portrait mode, them to focus more on the text than the actual widgets and the layouts there. So let's talk about the different types of widgets. And the first widget I want to talk about is photo galleries. Now you can use photo galleries for a collection of photos with descriptions inside it, or for your iPad. So if the learner has the option to flick through the images in a small screen, or they can actually pinch open the image and go into a full screen. Now you simply drag and drop in your images, and then you can rearrange them inside of iBooks Author. Now here are some of the details, and then I'll actually show you how it's done. There is an option to show thumbnails that toggles the thumbnails at the bottom of the page. So the learner can actually tap on one of the thumbnails at the bottom, and they'll skip them right to that image as well. Now the gallery allows you to drag and drop in your images in the order you want them and display them on the page, and then you can also hit the plus button to add more images. So you can either drag them on, or you can click on the plus button down at the bottom to add your images. Now, the nice thing that Apple has made sure to take care of is the accessibility. Accessibility description is for the current image that you have selected, and you can type down at the bottom what the the description is about the image, and so that way someone with the disabilities has the or can access that or get more information about the image if they're unable to see it or something like that. So let's go ahead and talk about how to actually add a photo galleries widget inside of my iBooks. So I'm going to click on the widget icon, and then I'm going to click on gallery. Now it's going to, let me pull up my, it pulls up my inspector, and I'm going to move the widget first of all to the location that I want. Now, with all of your widgets that you insert inside of iBooks, there is the option to change the layout of the widget. If I click on in the widgets tablets, or sorry, in the widget tab here, if I can click on this layout icon, and most of the widgets have the same type of layout, where I can select the layout here. I can select it to either be top or bottom, or bottom. Now let's take a look at that. If I click on top, it will move the description of the image, and it will move the description of the widget to the top of the or above the image. If I select top and bottom, it takes the description and puts that down at the bottom and leaves the description of this interaction up on top. Well, if I select the bottom, it will move the description of the interaction and the description of the image down at the bottom. I also have the option just to remove those if I don't want the title. Or on the title, I can select what type of title I wanted it to be: illustration, image, interaction, movie, review. Right now this is set as gallery, and this, so you can see that it says gallery 2.1, and that's because it's in the second section, the second chapter, but in the first section. Now the next option is the caption. Caption allows me to decide if I want there to be a caption. So the same caption for all images, if I select that, this caption won't change, or individual caption per image. That means when the learner flicks through the different images, it's actually going to have a different caption. If I want there to be a background, by default there wasn't a background on this, but if I want there to be a background, I can actually change the margin as well by dragging and dropping, or dragging this little slider here, and then I can change the accessibility description for the entire interaction as well. Okay, so now that I have this interaction, that's the layout, which is pretty similar across the board, across all the different widgets. You can change the descriptions and the title positions and everything across all different widgets. But the real meat of this interactive widget is under the interaction tab. Now here's where I can show the thumbnails. If I want there to be thumbnails, you'll notice a little icon has popped up on top. And then down at the bottom here it says gallery media. Now the gallery media, we don't have any media here, so if I wanted to, I can click on the plus icon, and then I can go to the image there and find an image and then drag in, and then select it. Or I can actually come into my images, wherever I may have those images, and I can actually select all of those images and just drag and drop them into the gallery there, and you can see that it's actually inserted all of my images right here in the order that I had it before. If I need to, I can just drag and drop my images in a different order, but every time I select the image, I also have the ability to add a description. So if I select a different image, you can see that I have a different description or accessibility description for each of my images. Again, you can toggle the thumbnails by selecting Show Thumbnails down at the bottom. Now, if I was to preview this, the learner, and I can't actually show this on my recording, but if I was to preview this, the learner can actually flick through it with their finger without going into full screen, or they can pinch the image and it would go into full screen. It would show the description, it would show the title, and everything like that once they're actually in full screen, and then they can pinch back to go out of the interaction. So that's how you add a photo gallery inside of your iBooks author. So let's go ahead and take a look at the next one. So the next one is videos. So when you want to work with videos or insert videos inside of your textbooks, keep in mind you can use the media gallery or the media widget, but keep in mind that whatever video you actually have inside of your iBooks, it will increase the size of your iBook drastically. So that means the longer it's going to take to download from the iBook store, and also the or to transfer it to your students or anything like that. So just keep that in mind. Now once the iBook is on their iPad, it's not going to be as much of a, or it's not going to be that or it's not going to be a problem because the video is now downloaded on their iPad, so they're not going to have any lagging time for their videos or anything, but it will take a little bit longer to download it. Now, keep the video short and sweet, so that it takes so it doesn't take a long time to actually download it inside of iBooks, the iBook store. Now, one thing that I found is working with videos is not all the videos were actually compatible with the iPad. And so what I had to do is actually open it up in QuickTime and then drag and drop it or export it as the web, and then use that video that was exported inside of or from QuickTime inside of iBooks Author. So let's talk a little bit about the details. Now you can change the layout like we had talked about before. You can change it from top to bottom, and then you can also choose all the elements surrounding the video like we talked about, like caption, background, and add accessibility description. So all of that's the same. And then you can choose to have the video go into full screen automatically or not as well. If the video does not go into full screen, the learner can actually watch the video inside of a window, and or if you flick on the or if the learner clicks on play, if you want them to go into full screen automatically, it will go into full screen. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. I'm going to delete the photo gallery widget that I have. Click on Inserts and go down to Medium. That's going to add this little video thing inside of my iBooks here, and then I can see where I can, or you can see here if you want it to go into full screen. It makes the icon a little bit smaller because they're required to go into full screen, or if I allow them to watch it here, they can watch it here as well, and then the learner has the choice to go into full screen or not. So let me go ahead and minimize that real quick. You'll notice this video that I have. If I try to actually drag and drop this video in here, it will give me a little warning that says this media file was not added because it's not supported, or it's unsupported. So what I found is if you actually open this up inside of QuickTime, so I'm just going to double click on this. If I go to File and then Export for Web, you can export it for Wi-Fi, cellular, broadband. All of these actually work, so I'm just going to click on Export. What it does is actually it will export my video. It creates this folder down at the bottom. It'll take a second here. Okay, so once that's been exported, you don't need the HTML file. All you need to do is go into the resources folder, and you can see where it says Bruce MOV and then Bruce Wi-Fi M4V. You can take either one of those, but if you drag and drop it in here, it will now work, and you can see that the video will actually play, or the video is in the screen here. If I select on the video, I get some more options under my interaction. If I wanted to, I can kind of fast forward this to be in the frame that I want it to start with, and then I can decide if I want this to loop, and also if I wanted to, I can hit play, control, and rewind just to check my video without actually previewing it. But if I did preview it, I would be able to see exactly how it's going to work for the learner as well. So that's how you get video working inside of your iBooks Author. So let's go ahead and continue here. Skip through these different bullet points here. Now we're going to talk about Keynote presentations. Now with Keynote presentations, you can use normal presentations to create interactions using Keynote. And you can have them work exactly like Keynote, so the learner actually has to tap on the area to continue to the next slide. Or you can use hyperlinks only to actually link from one page to the other. When I first saw iBooks Author, I was quite impressed with this interaction that you see in the iBooks, where the learner actually taps on the different images and they get different descriptions and different layouts of it. And I immediately started thinking, okay, how did this actually work? Because this isn't like a normal thumbnail inside of Keynote, and so they can't actually select the slide. And so what they had to do is actually select or actually make those hyperlinks to actually go to different slides inside of the Keynote page itself. So you can use video also inside of the pages, but there are no controls that actually show when you're using Keynote or when you're using video from inside of your Keynote. You can enable and disable the click anywhere to advance the slides, and so it won't work like a regular Keynote. You'll have to create hyperlinks to advance or to go to different options or to show different things. So it makes it more interactive that way as well. But when updating your Keynote, one thing that I found is it's better to actually, instead of dragging and dropping in a new Keynote, is actually better to delete that widget and then add a new widget and then inside of your Keynote. And then also you can add animations in your Keynote, but animations work better on transition of page and not the click. And so just keep that in mind, like a magic move or something like that. They will still work on the click, but it's found a little bit more issues when working with that. So, okay, so let's go ahead and add a Keynote. But let me first of all show you how to actually, let me pull this up real quick. Okay, so let's first of all talk about adding or building out this Keynote here. So you can see that I have a Keynote here with a couple of slides, just 3 slides here. I have some thumbnail images, and over on the left-hand side, I have this TV icon. And what I want to do is when they actually select on it, it's going to switch the image of that, whatever's on the TV there. And so the first thing that you need to do is to come into the inspector. And if you want the learner to actually be able to advance on, or to not actually allow them to click on the page to advance to the next slide, then there's a couple things that you need to do. The first thing is actually come to the presentation. So inside of your inspector, go to the document tab and come down to where it says presentation. Select the drop down box. Typically it'll be set at normal, but you can select it to hyperlinks only, and that will that means that if the learner taps on anywhere in the screen, it won't advance onto the next slide like it normally does within Keynote. So that's the first thing you need to do. But the second thing you need to do is actually use your images as hyperlinks. So I set up this image, and I want, when the learner actually taps on this image, I want them to take it to slide 2. So I come into this slide 1, select on this thumbnail, come to the second to last tab here, where it's the little blue circle with the white arrow, and then I can select where it says enable as hyperlink, and then link to a slide. I can do a web page, Keynote slide, and then I can decide which slide it's actually going to. So when the learner taps on the thumbnail, it's going to go to the slide. Now the only thing, I duplicated that slide, and the only thing I really changed was the image inside of the TV here. So to the learner, it's going to look like they're on the same interaction. But that's all I did was basically just go ahead and change the slide. Now I also added an animation. You can add an animation inside of Keynote. So if you have some animations set up, you can do that. You can see that I set one up here. And this Keynote or this animation will play inside of here. So if you wanted to do some animations, you can do that as well. So that's all that I've done inside of Keynote. So to bring that inside of iBooks Author, all I have to do is actually insert a widget, go into Keynote, select the Keynote here, and over on the widget tab, all I have to do from here, I can decide if I wanted to do full screen only, which will also make it a thumbnail here, or if I wanted to show transport controls, which will show a plus or a back and a forward arrow key to navigate through the different slides if you wanted to. But in this case, I'm just going to hit choose and go find that Keynote. So I'm going to go into my Keynotes. So I got Monty Python there. It's going to load my Keynote. And this has a video inside of the Keynote, so it's going to take a little bit longer. If you do have a video and that you have not converted like we did with the QuickTime, you'll want to make sure that you do that before you bring it in here, or an error will pop up as well. And so convert your videos from before you bring them into Keynote, and then you won't have a problem with that. But you can see now I can see this thumbnail of my image here, I can't preview it from my computer, and so the best thing to do is to plug in your iPad and click on the preview so you can make sure that it's working. Okay, so that's how you use a Keynote inside of your iBooks Author. So now I'm going to go ahead and move on here. So now we're going to talk about custom HTML. Now I have some different recordings on my kinetic-media.com blog, and so I've already addressed some of these things, but I'm going to address them inside of this presentation as well. With the custom HTML, one thing that when iBooks Author first came out, the first thing I did was try to get HTML inside of the iBooks Author. Being a web developer, that was the most interesting thing to me, and I said, okay, I want to get this into iBooks Author. I want to see how it works. I want to see the interaction. And so but I ran into so many problems. I couldn't actually insert an HTML file in, and I was so confused and so baffled by it. So I did a little research, and I found out that it actually has to be a widget. Now, a widget typically is used inside of the Mac dashboard, and so when you go to your dashboard, you see those little widgets here. And that's typically HTML files that you create using what's called Dashcode, Apple's Dashcode. And so initially I thought that that's what you had to use. You actually had to use Dashcode in order to use any type of HTML. So I started playing around with Dashcode and was completely confused by it. However, I found out by doing some more research that you can actually take regular HTML files and convert them to a .widget file or .wgt. So you can make any HTML into a .widget file, and that's what I want to show you here. Now, not all elements from HTML will come over, especially video. So you want to make sure that they're converted right, like we had talked about. But keep in mind that you still may run into some problems with HTML. So it's good. I haven't explored all the options yet, but it's good to just keep that in mind to test it out and say, okay, that's working. Let's go ahead and continue and stuff like that. So let's go ahead and talk about what you do with HTML. Now I have this widget file already created, but I'm going to go ahead and delete that. I'm going to create a new folder here, and I'm going to name this hype sample. I'm actually going to name this HTML sample. And I've already created some this index file and some resources which have some JavaScript in there. And I'm going to go ahead and just take those, copy those, and then paste them inside of my HTML sample folder. Now it's key that you actually create a folder first of all, because you're going to need multiple files in order to create the widget files. You want to make sure that you actually place all of the files that you need inside of here. If I just double click on that HTML file, all I have is this little animation, HTML5 animation. It says tap the box. When I tap on it, it says congrats, you tapped the box, and that's HTML5. And so if I needed to, I can actually, I can't just bring that inside of iBooks Author. If I click widgets, go down to HTML, let me stretch this out. For some reason, this one always makes it so small, but I can stretch this out here. If I select choose, I can't go into the HTML sample and bring in the HTML file. And this is where it says Dashcode HTML file. It needs to be a Dashcode HTML file. So there's one thing that you can do. If I go into my hype sample, and you can download these from the examples or the source files found on the mLearnCon icon or on my blog as well. There's two different files that you need. You need to create a default.png. This can be anything really. You can take a screenshot of your interaction, and you can bring that inside of your inside of here and just drag and drop it inside of there. It's basically just what's going to show before the learner actually goes into the HTML content. So it can really be anything, but it does need to be named default.png. The next thing is the info.plist. Now this is very important because this actually contains information about your Dashcode widget here. Now let's go through some of that information. You can see that it's HTML5 animation, and you have a string here that you can put your own website there. CF bundle, you don't even need to change any of these if you download it, except for the height and the width. You will need to change those. And then the main HTML file, which is right now set up as index.html. If you change that, then you'll need to change it. So if you're not pointing to an index.html file, then you'll need to change it to whatever the main file is. Now you can use external more than one page, but that's the main file that it needs to go in. So now that I have all those files, well, actually I need to take those files from this interaction, so that the default.png and the info plist, and I need to place those inside of my folder. So now that those are in there, now I come back into my folder, and so there's one little trick that you need to do with your folder. You just select what that's text, like you were going to rename it, but instead of renaming it, you just add a .wgt file or extension to it. This little message says, are you sure you want to add that? Yes, I'm sure. You'll notice now it does not look like a folder anymore. It has this little white icon, or maybe black, but now it's a .wgt file. So if I go ahead and come back to iBooks Author, I can click on Choose and then select the WGT file and hit Insert. Now it uses that default .png file inside of here, so you can see that's my image. And if I double click on it, or actually not double click, if I select where it says Edit HTML, I can preview this HTML inside of iBooks Author, and then just select Done once I'm done. So it's a little bit more work than expected here in order to bring in HTML5 inside of iBooks, but there is a great tool on the Mac. Since we're already using a Mac with iBooks Author, there's a great tool called Hype. Now, Hype actually has made it extremely easy to actually make widget files, and so you don't actually need to go through that whole process that we went through here. Now, Hype, you can insert elements like text, textured buttons, images, videos. It's a great tool, which I have some tutorials on Hype on my blog, so go ahead and check those out as well. But if I wanted to insert a box, for example, I can animate that box by selecting the little animation icon down at the bottom, move that to wherever I want, and then I can start adding text. I can also come into the inspector, and I can say, okay, on mouse click, jump to a certain scene. So there's a lot that you can do with HTML5 here. But the really nice thing about Hype is if I go to File, Export as HTML5, I have a -code/iBooks Author widget. And so I can directly export as a widget, and I'm going to do that on my desktop. I can directly export as a widget here, and on my desktop, I now have my widget file there that allows me to just bring that inside of iBooks Author. So Hype has made it extremely easy for you. If you build your interaction inside of Hype, you can go ahead and just bring that right inside of here as well. So let me pull this back up. So that's how you use the HTML5 interaction inside of Hype. Sorry, inside of iBooks Author. So let's go ahead and continue here. So as a reminder, HTML5 content needs to be a -code.widget file. You can make any HTML content as a .widget. You can use Hype to export it right to a .widget. But not all elements will come over, so keep that in mind as well. Okay, so now we're going to talk about 3D images. 3D images actually allows you to bring in images that the learner will be able to rotate and kind of view in the 3D realm. And now I'm not a 3D person, but this is what research I've actually done and what I've found here. It must be a Collada file, and I may be pronouncing that wrong, but which is a .dae file. Now, one tool that's a free tool is called Google SketchUp, and it allows you to actually create free 3D elements, and you can actually download Google SketchUp, use that to actually create objects, and then bring those inside of iBooks Author. Now, the nice thing about it is they have a warehouse that has hundreds of different 3D images that you can actually search for them, download them, and then use them inside iBooks Author. So if you're talking about a refrigerator, you're talking about a couch or something like that, or like an atom in this case, you can download those and then use those, save them as a Collada file, and then bring those inside of iBooks Author. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to go ahead and delete this widget here. And I'm going to insert a 3D widget. But now I need to go into Google SketchUp. Now if I wanted to create my own 3D items, I could. Just using Google SketchUp, I can go ahead and create 3D different objects. Or, let me close that out. I can go to a file and then go to 3D Warehouse and then get models. And then I can search for the different models that I want. So you can see I typed in Atom. I misspelled that. Typed in Atom, and it pulls up with these different 3D files. Let me actually get that. Hit download model. It says load this into Google SketchUp. Okay. It's going to download the that file into my Google SketchUp. Now, depending on the size of that file, it may take a little bit. But once Google SketchUp has it downloaded, it will pull it up in Sketchbook, and you can start adding on your own content if you wanted to. You can start tweaking it how you want if you wanted to, or if you don't know how to do that, then you can actually come in and inside of, or sorry, it's Google SketchUp, you can just export it as the Kalita file, and then just bring that inside of iBooks Author. Alright, so I didn't actually download the Atom, but I have this other boat here file, or boat file here. And so if I click on File, I can go to Export 3D Model. And let's go ahead and give it a name. Then I can name it, or I can name the exports whatever I want, and then use it as a Kalita file, .dae, hit Export. And once I've done that, now I can come back into iBooks Author. Click on Choose over on the right hand side in my widget panel there, Inspector. If I click on Desktop, I can also click on the sample.dae and then click on Insert. And it says this 3D file may not perform well on older iPads, considering the 3D file with the version that's new. It's just basically an updated version because of how intense this is. This may not be true for all of the different images that you bring in, but in this case, that's the case. And so I can go ahead and choose if I wanted to free rotate, horizontal, and vertical, if I don't want them to be able to rotate it exactly, or auto rotate object when idle, so it'll automatically rotate it. And so I can take this object and then actually use this when the learner actually taps on it. It'll bring it up in iBooks Author, and it will, or sorry, in iBooks, and then they can rotate it with their finger, which I can't actually show on this recording, but if you just hit preview, it'll go on your iPad and you can test it out there. Okay, so that's how you do 3D models. So let's go ahead and talk about, well, as a review, there must be a Kalita file. You can use Google SketchUp and use some 3D simple elements, especially the warehouse, to create models from Google as well. So now let's talk about interactive images. When you're working with interactive images, you can actually bring in an image inside of iBooks Author, and then you can add different points to the image and make them a little bit more descriptive. And so this allows the learner to explore different parts of the image. They tap on the area for the description and more info, but you can only use one image per widget. And so it doesn't actually allow the learner or you to have multiple images. You can have one image and then have different points in there as well. Now, as far as the points, there doesn't seem to be a limit. I've tried up to 50. Now, there may be a limit, but I got up to 50, which is pretty high for one image. So let's take a look at that real quick. I'm going to go ahead and delete, first of all, the 3D one. Click on Widgets, go down to Interactive Image. It will add this image here, or this widget. I can just drag it into place. And then I need to come in and actually insert my image. And so I'm going to grab one of these images here, drag and drop it into place there. And now with the interactive widget, you'll notice that instead of images, it has on the interaction, first of all, I can show transport controls, so they can go to 1, 2, or back to the home. I can also show description in a sidebar. Right now, if I tap on it, it'll actually show a description within the little pop-up. Come back to default views, how I navigate back here. Or if I show descriptions, when I tap on it, the description will actually show up on the left-hand side, and this will be highlighted. So it depends on what you actually want to have. If you have longer descriptions, it may be better to show it in the on the left-hand side there. Now I can add multiple points if I wanted to, but again, to navigate back to the default view, I just click on the default view over on the right-hand side here. Now I can change the default view if I wanted to zoom it out, zoom it back in, and then all I have to do is hit set view, and that will be the default view. Same thing with view number 2. If I wanted view number 2 to be a little bit more tighter here, or moved over a little bit more, I can position that, hit set view, and that will be set for section 2. So when the learner actually taps on that, it'll zoom into exactly this as well. And then I can add more views as well. If once I add a view, I can move both the point to wherever I want, and then also the description to wherever I want as well. To change the description, I just double click on the text, and I can change that and select the image here. Zoom in and out for this description. Let's go ahead and move it over so it focuses a little bit more on that. And then hit set view. And that's really it. So I can go ahead and just start adding as many views as I want. Come back to default view where it has all the different items, and then just make sure everything is working there. I can either navigate by tapping here or navigate on the right hand side. So that is interactive images. So as a review, you can explore different parts of an image. So if you're talking about equipment or something like that, the learner can tap on the different parts of the equipment and get more information. You can also only use one image per widget, and there's also no apparent number points that you can max out to. So you drag and drop the point where you want and the title where you want it. You can choose the option to show transport controls for different navigation, and you can also choose to add descriptions on the sidebar or as a sidebar, or just keep it as the little pop-up. And then you can have as many points as you want from what I've been able to test, and then add accessibility for all of the items as well. Okay, so let's move on to review interactions. Review interactions are basically quizzes. So you can add different parts of quizzes in there. The big question that I get is it SCORM compatible? Will it report over to an LMS? Right now, the answer is no. iBooks review widgets are strictly for review as of right now. Now, I don't see that sticking like that the entire time. Hopefully, Apple is able to come up with a way to report this, hopefully using Tin Can SCORM or something like that in order to report the information over. But as of right now, it is not SCORM compatible. And you can choose 6 different types of questions. And it's great for at the end of a section to be able to review content and also allow them to answer in a small window, or you can force them to go into full screen as well. So what are those different types of questions? Well, the first one is multiple choice. Then there's multiple choice with the side image, multiple choice with the top image, image multiple choice where all of the different choices are images, drag to target, and then drag thumbnail to target as well. So let's talk about multiple choice first. You can remove the title like we talked about, so you can still change the different labels here. You can click on the text to edit the question, so you just double click on the text, and then you can also click on the distractors to edit the distractors. And then you select the radio button. Once you're in the iBooks Author tool, you can select the radio button of the correct answer. And then in the inspector, you can also change the number of distractors that you want by selecting the drop-down box next to the actual question. And then you can add more questions by clicking on the plus icon down at the bottom. And then you can change the accessibility for each question and each distractor as well. So let's get into that. Go ahead and select this interaction. Select the widget, go down to review, move that over, and it starts me out automatically with a multiple choice question. So I can just double click on the question. Sorry, I'm in caps. So let's go ahead and give the possible answers. Let me change this to a different one. Let's say I'm only going to give 3 options. Well, how do I change that? Get rid of this one. Coming over to the inspector, I just click on the drop-down box, go down to select the drop-down box to be only 3 instead of 4 there, or I can add more, go up to 6, or go down to 2. Then I select the correct answer by selecting a little checkbox, and where I see the green option is where the correct answer will be. Now I can't preview this until I actually preview on an iPad, so you can see exactly how it's going to interact with the learner. There will also be a check answer button that shows up. Actually, it's down here, and the learner can tap on it and check the answer, and it will show if they got it correct or incorrect. There's a lot more that can be developed in this, feedback or anything like that. Right now, that's pretty much it. It's just showing them if it was a correct answer or not. Okay, so that is how you add a multiple choice. Let's go ahead and continue here. So now we have multiple choice with image. Now it's the same exact thing that we've already done, but you have the option to add an image on there. So you can have an image on the top, or you can have an image on the sides. Now you can choose from the side image on the top of the distractors, or on the image on the top, on the side of the distractors, or the image on the top like I mentioned. And after you drag and drop in the image, you can adjust the mask, and so you can position it in the most important part of the image, because your image may not be that same proportion that they have there. So let's go ahead and, let me skip through these. Let's go ahead and talk about that option. So to add more questions, all I have to do is click on. Okay, so to add more questions, all I have to do is click on this little plus icon. I can go to multiple choice with image. It then takes me to my second question. You notice you can navigate through the different questions with these arrows. The learner will be able to flick through them, but you can actually navigate through the arrows so you can get to them, or you can select on the different questions over on the right hand side here. With the multiple choice with image, I just drag and drop in the image. If I select the image or double click on the image, I can edit the mask, and so I can move the image to where I want. I can also zoom in on the image or zoom out on the image as well. Just click anywhere to get back to see what it's like without the mask. And then I can just click on the question, possible distractors as well, and then select which one of those distractors is correct. And you do the same thing with the image on top as well. So let's go ahead and skip down to the image multiple choice. This is very similar as well, just images instead of the possible distractors. Drag and drop in the images, and then select the radio button for the correct image. You can edit the mask size on all of the images, and then also the drag to target. You drag in an image, and then you position the different little radio buttons to the target that you want. And then you change the labels, and the learner has to take the drag and drop it into the little dots. So they drag the labels to the dots to the correct location. Now you can click on the labels to edit, and then also the learner will take the labels below and drag them to the correct location up on top. Same thing with the thumbnails. You just drag in your image and drag and drop them to the correct location, and then once you hit check answer, it will actually show if you got the correct answer or not. So drag the thumbnails to the correct location, and the learner will take the thumbnails below and drag them to the correct location as well. So let's just do one of those because they're pretty similar here, but I'm going to do the thumbnail one here. Then I can just take the images, drag and drop them into the location that I want. You can see that the thumbnail gets created down here because that's what they're going to actually be dragging it. You can change the position of the radio button there, and that's how I add on that or add on that question there. So okay, so that is how you use the review widgets. So we talked about photo galleries, we talked about media, keynotes, reviews, interactive images, 3Ds, HTML files as well. We also talked about some of the media shapes that you can use. But that is my presentation, so hopefully you were able to get some information out of this. You can come back and review this as much as you want. I will be editing this and actually tweaking it a little bit more, adding zooms, and so you have a little bit more description, even splitting up this recording. But this is in preparation for my my presentation tomorrow, so anyone at the session tomorrow can actually review this at a later time as well.